Reading Aloud for Primary 5, Chapter 1, page 4 to 6. It's a Dog's Life by Shawna Telman. My name is Sparky and I work for Miss Tony Graham. I am her in-home companion. My trainer calls what I do work, but I think my job is fun. I especially enjoy the variety in my job. I do many different things for Miss Tony every day. She says I have transformed her life. I have changed things so her daily routine is easier. Miss Tony suffers from an illness that makes her hands shake and causes her muscles to stiffen up. She has a hard time bending over. On a bad day, Miss Tony can lose her balance and fall. Whenever she drops something, I pick it up for her. It's part of my job. Another part of my job is to help Miss Tony with her work. She has an office in her home. Last week, she was preparing to mail invitations for some major celebration that will raise money for a charity. How did I help? I learned how to lick the flaps of envelopes. They needed to be moistened so that they could seal shut. For once, my slimy doggy tongue came in handy. Every afternoon, I accompany Ms. Tony on a walk around town. Exercise is important for her health, so we never miss a day. We often see a new sight or smell a new fragrance along our route. Ms. Tony rests when we get back. She needs my cooperation during this time. I help her by being very quiet. I stay by the front door and keep my eye on things. If Miss Tony needs me, she rings a bell. Every so often, Miss Tony can't sleep, so nap time is canceled. At these times, she likes me to hang out and relax with her. The theory behind this is that petting me makes her feel calm. The idea makes sense. She talks to me and brushes me. This is one of the best parts of my job. I am very lucky to be a part of Miss Tony's life. People who have a hard time with day-to-day chores can become sad and lonely. Dogs like me help them feel happy. Reading Aloud for Primary 5, Chapter 2, page 7 to 8. Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan was born on 17th February 1963 in Brooklyn, New York. Having won a total of 6 NBA, National Basketball Association, championships with his team, the Chicago Bulls, Michael is often referred to as one of the greatest basketball players of all time. Michael was introduced to basketball at a young age by his father, James Jordan. Attending university in North Carolina, Michael joined the basketball team and helped lead them to win the championship in 1982. In 1984, Michael joined the Chicago Bulls. Although this meant that he left school before he could complete his degree, Michael continued studying while playing basketball. This led him to earn a degree in geography in 1985. At a height of 1.98 meters tall, Michael is well known for his ability to score slam dunks during a game. Incredibly, he can perform a vertical jump of just over 1 meter. In total, Michael played in 1,072 NBA games before retiring from basketball in 2003. Reading Aloud for Primary 5, Chapter 3, page 9 to 10. World Water Day. World Water Day is on the 22nd March, and the theme changes every year. The theme for World Water Day 2019 is Leave No One Behind. This is based on the Sustainable Development Goal 6 set out by the United Nations, which aims to ensure that everyone in the world will have access to clean water by 2030. In the Western world, clean water and good sanitation is often taken for granted. Most taps provide safe drinking water, and the majority of private bathrooms and public toilets have hand washing facilities available for use. However, billions of people around the world still live without access to safe water or sanitation facilities. Vulnerable groups such as refugees, disabled people, and indigenous people often face challenges and even discrimination when trying to reach safe, clean water. This is unacceptable as access to drinking water is a human right and is crucial in maintaining and promoting human health. Interesting fact: around 60% of the human body is made up of water, and every cell and organ needs it to function properly. Reading aloud for Primary 5, Chapter 4, page 11 to 12. Women's World Cup. Women's football has been attracting crowds of fans for over 100 years. Many popular women's football teams provided much-loved entertainment throughout the world wars. However, in 1921, the Football Association said that football as a sport was quite unsuitable for females. They said that it ought not to be encouraged and banned women from playing matches in the grounds of Football Association clubs. This ban was finally lifted in 1971. In this year, the first unofficial Women's World Cup was held in Mexico. This competition saw 6 national teams competing against each other in 3 groups. Although Mexico, Argentina, England, Denmark, France, and Italy all competed for the prize, only the game between France and Denmark was officially recognized as an international women's football match. Finally, in 1988, a women's football competition was held in China. This competition was a test to see if a Women's World Cup would be a success. 12 international teams competed for the prize, and after a tense penalty shootout to decide third place, the competition was called a huge success. The first official Women's World Cup was held in China 3 years later. Reading aloud for Primary 5, Chapter 5, page 13 to 15. True Wealth. Once upon a time, there lived a very rich and wealthy man in a big town. He led a luxurious life. He always boasted about his wealth to his friends and relatives. His son was studying in a distant city, and he returned home for vacation. The rich man wanted to show off to his son how rich he was, but his son wasn't fond of any luxurious lifestyle. However, the rich man wanted to make his son realize that his lifestyle was extremely rich and that poor people suffered a lot. He planned a day's visit to the entire town to show him the life of the poor people. The father and the son visited the entire town. The father was happy that his son was very quiet after seeing the poor people honoring the rich man and after witnessing the sufferings of the poor. The rich man asked his son, "Dear boy, how was the trip? Have you enjoyed it?" "Yes, my dad, it was a great trip with you," the son replied. "So, what did you learn from the trip?" the father asked. The son was silent. "Finally, you have realized how the poor suffer and how they actually live," said the father. "No, father," replied the son. He added, "We have only 2 dogs. They have 10 dogs. We have a big pool in our garden, but they have a massive bay without any end. We have luxurious and expensive lights, but they have countless stars lighting their nights. We have a house on a small piece of land, but they have abundant fields that go beyond the horizon. We are protected by huge and strong walls around our property, but they bond with each other and surround themselves with their fellow beings. We have to buy food from them, but they are so rich that they can cultivate their own food." The rich father was stunned and speechless on hearing his son's words. Finally, the son added, "Dad, thank you so much for showing me who is rich and who is poor. Thank you for letting me understand how poor we really are." Reading aloud for Primary 5, Chapter 6, page 16 to 18. Under the Sea. Have you ever swum in the sea? There's so much to see below its surface. You can find some quite unusual creatures. The seahorse has a head like a horse's, eyes like a lizard's, skin like a dinosaur's, and a tail like a monkey's. It also uses camouflage to protect itself from enemies. Under the sea, you can find some very dangerous animals too. The hammerhead shark has a T-shaped head and can grow to over 4 meters long. It is quite at home in the warm waters around the world and may attack the creatures it comes across, even humans. The jellyfish seems its opposite. Tiny in comparison, the jellyfish has an umbrella-shaped, see-through body with long arms called tentacles. There are about 200 different kinds of jellyfish, varying in shape, size, and color, and 70 of them have sting cells in their tentacles. These can hurt and even kill you if you touch their tentacles. The stingray is another creature that can kill with its sting. It has a flattened body and eyes on the top of its head. The body ends in a long tail with a spike, which can inject venom into its enemies. However, not all sea creatures are venomous. Dolphins are not fish, but like whales, are warm-blooded mammals. They communicate with each other using different sounds. They are very intelligent and can learn many tricks in captivity. The same cannot be said of sea turtles. They seem creatures of instinct. When it is time for the female to lay her eggs, she swims to the shore, digs a hole, lays the eggs, and covers them with sand. Under the sea, where fish swim so free, that's the place you might want to be. Reading aloud for Primary 5, Chapter 7, page 19 to 20. The Fence Story. There once was a young boy with a very bad temper. He had problems controlling his anger. When he got angry, he would say the first thing that came to mind, even if it affected people. The boy's father wanted to teach him a lesson, so he gave him a bag of nails and told him that every time he lost his temper, he must hammer a nail into their wooden fence. On the first day of this lesson, the little boy hammered 37 nails into the fence. He was really mad. Over the course of the next few weeks, the little boy began to control his anger. So the number of nails that were hammered into the fence dramatically decreased. It wasn't long before the little boy discovered it was easier to hold his temper than to drive those nails into the fence. Then, the day finally came when the little boy didn't lose his temper even once, and he became so proud of himself he couldn't wait to tell his father. Pleased, his father suggested that he now pull out 1 nail for each day that he could hold his temper. The day finally came when the young boy was able to tell his father that all the nails were gone. Very gently, the father took his son by the hand and led him to the fence. "You have done very well, my son," he smiled, "but look at the holes in the fence. The fence will never be the same." The little boy listened carefully as his father continued to speak. "When you say things in anger, they leave permanent scars just like these. And no matter how many times you say you're sorry, the wounds will still be there." Reading aloud for Primary 5, Chapter 8, page 21 to 22. What is common sense? If you ask someone to name the senses, they'll probably say sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. But are these all? Isn't there another sense that people are supposed to have? Different people have different ideas about this other sense. Usually, we call it common sense. It isn't like the other senses because it isn't linked to a part of the body, such as seeing with the eyes, smelling with the nose, and hearing with the ears. It could have something to do with the brain, but it isn't something we can learn at school. Common sense is what we use when we decide what to do in certain situations. For example, what do we do when we have locked ourselves out of the house? Or, how do we drive when the road is wet and dangerous? Common sense doesn't always seem to work when it comes to personal matters or feelings. People sometimes say things about other people like, "Why is he giving her more money? Doesn't he have the common sense to stop? She'll only spend the money on useless things." So it seems not everyone has common sense or uses it properly. The French writer Voltaire once said, "Common sense is not so common." Reading aloud for Primary 5, Chapter 9, page 23 to 26. The Teacup Story. There was a couple who liked antiques and pottery, and especially teacups. It was their 25th wedding anniversary, so they went into a shop. One day, in this beautiful shop, they saw a beautiful cup. They said, "May we see that? We've never seen one quite so beautiful." As the lady handed it to them, suddenly the cup spoke. "You don't understand," it said. "I haven't always been a teacup. There was a time when I was red and I was clay. My master took me and rolled me and patted me over and over, and I yelled out, 'Let me alone!' But he only smiled, 'Not yet.' Then I was placed on a spinning wheel," the cup said, "and suddenly I was spun around and around and around. 'Stop it! I'm getting dizzy!' I screamed. But the master only nodded and said, 'Not yet.' Then he put me in the oven. I never felt such heat," the teacup said. "I wondered why he wanted it to burn me, and I yelled and knocked at the door. I could see him through the opening, and I could read his lips as he shook his head, 'Not yet.' Finally, the door opened. He put me on the shelf, and I began to cool. 'There, that's better,' I said. And he brushed and painted me all over. The fumes were horrible. 'Stop it! Stop it!' I cried. He only nodded, 'Not yet.' Then suddenly he put me back into the oven, not like the first one. This was twice as hot, and I knew I would suffocate. I begged, I pleaded, I screamed, I cried. All the time I could see him through the opening, nodding his head, saying, 'Not yet.' Then I knew there wasn't any hope. I would never make it. I was ready to give up. But the door opened and he took me out and placed me on the shelf. 1 hour later, he handed me a mirror and said, 'Look at yourself.' And I did. I said, 'That's not me. That couldn't be me. It's beautiful. I'm beautiful.' 'I want you to remember then,' he said. 'I know it hurts to be rolled and patted, but if I had left you alone, you'd have dried up. I know it made you dizzy to spin around on the wheel, but if I had stopped, you would have crumbled. I knew it hurt and was hot and disagreeable in the oven, but if I hadn't put you there, you would have cracked. I know the fumes were bad when I brushed and painted you all over, but if I hadn't done that, you never would have hardened. You would not have had any color in your life. Now you are a finished product. You are what I had in mind when I first began with you." Reading aloud for Primary 5, Chapter 10, page 27 to 29. The Problem of Rubbish. Every one of us produces rubbish of some kind. Dealing with the rubbish is big business. In some cities, millions of dollars may be spent each year just to have rubbish collected from homes and disposed of. In the past, the rubbish was usually thrown into the sea or dumped on vacant land. Nowadays, some of it is recycled, some burnt, and the rest buried in the ground. Every year, for one city alone, about 800,000 cubic meters of land is set aside for burying rubbish. That is the same as filling a football stadium with rubbish up to 20 meters high, or as high as a 7-story building. Rubbish is not only costly to dispose of, it also harms the environment in many ways. 1. When it is not properly buried, some of it gets blown about in the wind. 2. It stinks. 3. Rats and flies, among many scavengers, look for food in the landfills and carry away germs, usually to our homes. 4. When rubbish is burnt, poisonous gases are given off, causing air pollution. Last but not least, when rubbish is dumped in the sea, the water becomes polluted. Although we may not see the results of all this pollution, we know the environment is harmed. What can we do about these problems? Well, we can produce less rubbish. We can recycle things made of glass and paper, as well as tin cans. When we buy things from shops and supermarkets, instead of using their plastic bags, we could use our own shopping bags. The reason is that plastics, unlike wood, for example, are not biodegradable. So plastic bags stay around as rubbish for a very long time. And besides being unsightly as litter, they are known to have caused the death of creatures that swallowed them. Governments should inform their people about the problems that rubbish can cause. Education may be the most important factor in keeping the environment healthy for everyone.